Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Community Talks episode 3. My name is Roman, known as the Flamingo Chief or the Flamingo Guy, the leader of the Flamingo Cult, whatever you want to call it. But I run a personal brand on LinkedIn, and I decided to start my own webinar series all about community building. Today, I am joined by Saffron Sumner, the founder of the Twenties Legacy community, and today she's going to be talking about how to secure PR and brand partnerships for your community. Saff, for me, is the go-to person for PR and productivity tips for months now. I still love your tip about playing a particular music when you're trying to work, so your brain associates it with that music whenever it's on and you start getting focused more. But enough about me. Welcome, Saff. How are you?
Hi, Roman. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited. I've been to the past 2 events as well. They've been really, really insightful and full of great information. I have really enjoyed them over here. Going to be sad when it all ends. But yes, I'm good. Happy to be here. Going to be spilling all the PR secrets. Me and Roman were just saying before, you wouldn't believe actually that a lot of gatekeeping happens in the PR industry. I feel like the marketing world has brought it in recently. People know what to do. They just more want to pay an expert. But in PR, especially as an individual, you can very much do it yourself, especially in the beginning. Obviously, I'm not talking big campaigns, especially when you incorporate marketing activities as well. Just here today to say you can do it yourself. I'm going to tell you how.
Wonderful. I think the power of PR is something that majority of people don't really know, probably because of that gatekeeping. It's not something widely accessible. But before we dive into PR topics, can you tell us about your community? What is 20 Legacy? Who is it for? How old you've had it?
Yeah, of course. So 20s Legacy community is really in the name. It's for the self-employed in their 20s. But I mean, yes, it is originally for us young and self-employed, but we do have actually many members into their 30s and 40s, especially those who love to give collaborations, insight and help to all of us young ones trying to find our way. I created the community because before running this community and before freelancing, I actually ran an agency, and first of all, I hated it. It's not the life for me. And I just felt so isolated, lonely. There was a lack of resources and advice for people my age, people who were just a few steps ahead. So I thought there's definitely a need for all these people right now. So that's just what I created. It's not even one yet, going really well. We in the private community group, we have almost 1,000 people, but then in the wider community, it's over 30,000. So yeah, it's definitely growing. It's definitely a need. And all I want to do is just help people self-manage their self-employment and just be the best versions of themselves to be able to do what they need and what they want.
You answered already my next question, which I love. I love your community. It's on Facebook group and it's filled with a bunch of materials. I think we first got to know each other through one of your events. I think it was the one with Ethan, and your events are always super actionable, and whatever topic you cover, it's super useful for freelancers. And now that I started as a freelancer myself from last week, I think I'm going to be diving very closely into 20's Legacy.
Yeah, let's hope. I am actually going to bring in another version of the community group as well I haven't quite decided yet, perhaps a Discord or even Slack, just because Facebook is great for the posts and quick advice, but for the day-to-day chat, I feel like there needs to be something in depth. So yeah, watch out. We're going to have both versions, which you can be a part of, but that will be coming soon.
You could also consider maybe going into Circle, something many people are trying out. But let's start with our discussion. The very first question I have with you is, why does your community need PR? Again, PR is not the topic that has been widely spoken to me at my job. PR is not something other community founders I see talk about, yet PR is present. So why does your community need it?
First of all, the exposure. Undoubtedly, PR exposure is the biggest exposure you can get. You could have one article placement and have tens of thousands of people read that article instantly. And not only does that article link to you or your community or your business, but it also increases your ranking in Google. So just from one PR placement online, you are increasing several activities. You're giving that a boost. Also, getting PR placements makes great social proof all over your other channels as well. And another really important reason why uni PR is because of the opportunities it opens you up to. It really is a 360 type of activity where you can get seen by investors, people who run podcasts, people who want you on even their show, people who want to write articles about you. It just opens you up so much broader, and it is a lot more effective, in my opinion, marketing to hit loads of different angles, whereas marketing, you obviously just concentrate on one. So yeah, I believe PR is severely underrated. You always see the big businesses having PR publications. You click on the news tab on Google, you see it all. It is not hard for you to get there as well, and something you should be definitely thinking of.
Yeah, and I also feel like if you have a strong PR presence or PR in general, it contributes to those parts of marketing that marketers generally are afraid of, but no, are super powerful, which is the dark social and word of mouth, because people see you in incredible sources, which I assume could be like the news outlets, our podcast invitations considered part of PR.
Yep, bloggers who can write about you as well. I mean, PR is so extensive to what you can do to land a PR placement. But yeah, it definitely helps all of that too.
Okay, and what does purposeful PR mean, and why purposeful? Why is that important? Why not just any PR?
So purposeful PR is really important because you don't just want to land any placement. You don't want to spray yourself, essentially, because you could write up a story, a press release, or go for inbound PR, but it needs to be relevant to you, to your audience, and where you want to be. For example, if I was to go try and attempt to be in a blog that's meant for 50-year-old women, it's completely irrelevant. And I know that's really obvious, but you would be surprised about how many people say to me, oh, I've written up a press release, I've sent it to a bunch of publications, but none of them take it. And I look at the press release and the people they're sending it to, and it's like, yeah, of course. And you have to, it's not just about the relevant publication, because publications obviously have several journalists. You have to make sure that the journalist writes about your topic, is interested about your topic, so that you're being meaningful with who you're talking to, so that you even stand a chance to secure it. And also purposeful PR, if you get in the right publications in the right places, it opens up, as we said, to so many different opportunities. It's just got to be something you plan in a strategy, essentially. Roman, you're on mute.
I think I have experience with something like that myself. I have had not too many, but a few podcast invitations, and one of them was quite interesting, but there was a disconnect. When a guy reached out to me, I checked his podcast, and not only it's in the US, where it's not my primary demographic per se, although nothing against US creators, but second of all, his demographic is much older and more experienced senior entrepreneurs, and he wanted to talk about leadership, and that's literally not something I've talked about yet.
Yeah. And the thing is, I know some people say, oh, even bad press is good press because it gets you out there. But if you're in a completely wrong industry, and like you said, you're on a podcast or you've been invited as a guest interview, that you're going to be in an article, if you're in the wrong place, it can give people the wrong idea. And it very much looks like that you're just doing it to get your name out there. It doesn't look great. It's like, for example, when influencers take on any brand deal that they can get, it doesn't look great, and it doesn't look like you know your audience or you care about your audience. Being purposeful PR means you care about your audience and you care about the image that you want to portray to them.
Yeah, speaking of brand deals, I think a top tip for any creators and freelancers out there, if you want to accept a brand deal, probably accept something that you already use that is relevant to your brand. If there's a tool that reaches out to me, but I never heard of it or I don't want to use it, I don't think it really makes sense, because you then put your face representing that brand. And everything in terms of PR is all about reputation, right? I really don't want to go in the wrong direction with that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, PR can even be extended to events.
Hmm.
Any of the events that people put on, the in real life ones, like obviously Sophie has her amazing in real life events. That's
Tell us more.
PR. It's PR. So it really extends everywhere. And I just think you have to think about what your end goal is, because if you're not doing it to reach that end goal, then there's no point doing it.
All right. So we know why PR is important. We know that it needs to be purposeful, and we know that you need to be picky about the brand collaborations and PR opportunities that come your way. But how do you secure them as a freelancer? You can't ask PR agencies, they're not going to tell you. What can you tell us? Is there a framework? Is there a step-by-step, some kind of strategy?
Yeah, so there's several ways that you can attain PR. If you do have a bit of time and you're willing to dedicate this time to be able to secure PR placements, I would very much say draft your own press release. So what you have to do in the beginning is obviously strategize, work out who your target audience is, the goals of this PR placement, what publications you would like to be in, what's your story, get your story and split it into 3 angles, because sometimes one press release doesn't get taken up because maybe the journalists don't like the way it's written, maybe they don't like the tone. So if you have 3 different spins, you're obviously increasing your chances. So once you've got your strategy together, then write out your press release. With press releases, no more than 500 words max, especially for your first ones. The only time I would ever recommend writing anything longer is if you have like this amazing story that's going to really sell in the press. You know, you went from being homeless to a millionaire, something like that. But again, you don't need fancy stories like that either. You can very much just have pretty normal story about a pretty average person, just whatever you're doing, anything like that. I mean, even if you've done some charity work, that's definitely a good angle as well. There's so many things that you can write stories about. I mean, I've written stories about the most boring topics before for people, and it's still got in the press because someone like the spin gets it picked up.
Can you
So
give us an example?
yeah, of course. So one time it was for this finance director. She didn't have anything new going on or anything big news. We just essentially wrote up a story about how she got from A to B with a client. It was like a success story, pretty much standard what every single person does. And yes, and publications took it. It is, you've got to be. So I'll move on to the next bit, but there's other parts that you can do to make sure you secure it. So obviously craft up your press release and have 3 different versions. Then you need to curate your journalist list. Now, this is a really, really important part. You need to be able to pick the right journalists from the right publications. Now, if you don't have any tools, and tools are a great advantage, you can just go onto the publications, find out what journalists work for them, find out their areas, and do it that long way round. If you're struggling to find them online, you can use tools such as Response Source or Rox Hill Media.
These tools we'll share in the email with the recording.
Yeah. So both amazing tools. I'm pretty sure you can get a free trial on Rox Hill Media, but I know you can on Response Source. There is other alternative ones as well. I'm just giving you 2 that I've used and still continue to use. On this is the biggest pool of journalists all over the world. So if I go on to the names are Rox Hill Media and Response Source. There's other ones. All you have to type in is journalist directory into Google and it will come up with different tools. So essentially it will have all the journalists you need pretty much all over the world. Rox Hill Media is a bit more global. And what you do, you just type in a journalist category, say you were writing about beauty products. You can also put in what they've wrote about before. Like, for example, recently, when I created a journalist list back in like December, I was doing it for a jewelry brand in America. And I wanted to find out journalists that had wrote about jewelry in the paper before. So I can type that in and you can get all the journalists, what they've done in the articles that they've wrote about. You can define it by you can define it by if they're man, woman, or if they don't like talking about these topics, if they've tweeted about it. These tools are amazing for finding the exact journalist you need. So then what you can do is put them into your journalist list. You can literally like select them in Rox Hill Media or Response Source, add them to your journalist list, and then you have it. I would advise, especially the first time you're doing it, get as many journalists as you can in, like as many as you can not be bothered, but meaningfully can put in. So sometimes I will just put 100 if I think it's a really strong press release. I'll just send it to the best journalist that I'm pretty sure I know will take it up. But if I feel like, okay, it's not as strong as a story, but I still want it to stick, I can go from like 200 to 500 journalists. Just so you're getting enough. Yeah. And this is what PRs do. Yes, of course, they have personal relationships. Like I have personal relationships with some journalists, but especially as one person, you don't have as many as a whole agency has. And even agencies will build out these big lists because it is much more beneficial for them to send it to 500 journalists that talk about this topic regularly and will like this topic than 10 of your close relationships that might not take it. So I would do both build relationships and curate your journalist list from one of these tools, or you can do it manually if you don't want to, for example, go full out and pay for the tool. Yeah.
So I imagine also as a journalist, they're probably like content creators at this point, receiving a ton of messages and pitches on all kinds of stories. So having relationships with some of them really helps stand out for this
of course.
press release.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, I do have personal relationships with quite a few journalists, and even they sometimes won't take the story just because it's not relevant to them at the time. But then what you can do with these tools is then you can send them emails. And what I would suggest doing is having a group of about 50 journalists that you really want to take the publication and personalize, make the email more personal to them. But for the rest of the mass, I would say, sorry, I can't read the comments at the same time. I'll look at it in a minute. For the rest of them, just make sure it is a generic personal email. It looks like you know that it is meant for them, but then send them ones to it in mass, because at the end of the day, when you're mass sending, you can't send a personalized email to all of them. That's why I said only include 50. And then you could even do a top 10 list where you send a really personalized email, where basically how to send a personalized email is you find previous work that they've written about. So you could say, hi, XYZ, I saw that you recently wrote about this and this in this article, so I thought you'd be interested in this story. Then you put your story. So yeah, I would say really personalize about 10 of them, semi-personalized 50, but then to the mass just send a strong email. Then you can do it to all of them at once.
Is that the entire strategy?
Well, that gets to that part. So that includes your pitch. Make sure your pitch is on point. And then once it's all out to them, you obviously have to follow up. Anyone who doesn't reply to you, follow up. And journalists are very busy. They are the busiest people I've ever met. Just a little warning, some of them can be a bit snippy, but that is only because they are like understaffed. They're inundated with requests every single day. That's why I said, make sure you do personalized 10, general personalized 50, just so that you are giving the best ones something. But otherwise, I will admit, I have had journalists take press releases that were more general pitches, strong pitch, but they were more general. But yeah, follow up 2 to 3 times. And then from that, in theory, yes, you should have a couple that are interested in the story. You do have to remember, they're not going to take the story like that. A journalist, especially if they're not an editor, they then have to send it to their editor. If they don't have full control of the piece, they might like your piece, but then write it up how they would want to send to their editor, and then the editor has to accept it. That's why following up is so important, so you can find out if it's going to happen and whereabouts it is in the process. And then what I would say is, if a journalist has confirmed, yes, we want to use your piece, make sure you say to them, can you please send me the link when it's live? Because everybody's had it before where it's gone live and we don't even know about it.
Really? They don't notify you?
No. You have to tell them to notify you. Some of them will. Some of them are good. But some of them are just so busy, they won't send you the link, because once it's with the editor, and then when it goes to the website, developers, that's it. So yeah, some of them don't send links. So yeah, part of my job is chasing for links. And you need to obviously remind yourself.
I think it would help to also build a relationship with editors if the journalist is not in charge of the editing. So you have like connection with the whole network.
You often don't know the editor.
Okay, so
They won't tell you who the editor is, so it could be anyone. So
can you just connect with all the editors and connect with them on LinkedIn? Just have all of them in your bunch?
there's so many. That's like saying, can you connect with all the marketers?
Oh shit.
It's there's thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah,
Every single thing that goes online goes through an editor.
I have no idea how PR works, so I'm going to be asking very stupid questions.
Oh no, it's okay.
The actually
No.
first question was, is the press release your own personal story, or is it something else?
Your press release is your story, what you want printed. You have to bear in mind, journalists will often change the format or change how it's written. It might not go out exactly how you put it. And they could position it from, oh, XYZ has had this happen, instead of you talking all about yourself, and they can put you into the third person. But it is your story that you want to sell. So yeah, and your story could be anything. But then also, if you don't have a story, you don't need to just release a story. There's a type of PR that I like to call native PR. And if you literally can't, you're racking your brain and you have nothing to write, you could go, okay, what I'm going to give instead is a bit of native PR, which is essentially you write an article that inserts yourself cleverly as like the authority figure. For example, I can do an article, well, for you, Roman, for example, if you had nothing that you could say, I'm sure you do, you could write an article about personal branding. So you could write an article saying, for example, why personal branding is important, how to build your personal brand, and what it can bring you. But what you would do is put your name at the top. Roman said this. Roman from XYZ said this. So you're still getting the mention. You're positioning yourself as the figure of authority, but it's an article about something else. And now these articles are great because they're a lot easier to get into the press, because journalists are more looking for stories about what's going to help the reader rather than about someone, especially business owners or freelancers. But so if you're doing the work for them, coming up with a really great article and you're just putting yourself in there, it's a win-win. You get the exact same exposure, you get the backlink, you obviously get the PR placement, but you're not having to write a story about yourself every single time. Like, for example, I could release an article that goes into PR publications, like about this event, about what I'm talking about now, so that other people could see it, learn from it. But I would put Saffron Sumner from like 20s Legacy or something like that said this, and then put all the article. Yeah, you can write those types of articles too.
Then you focus more on delivering like the story itself, and the story is so good and it's linked to a particular person or the company that they're just gonna end up following anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you can release stories like that. And then another part of PR, this is the easy part. So this is the one for you people that don't have a lot of time. I like to call it inbound PR, and is essentially you sign up to tools again, like Harrow, Press Plugs, Response Source. Again, Response Source is like a holistic 360 one. So if you sign up to these, where you receive journalists sending you requests every single day. So I currently am signed up to Harrow and Press Plugs, and I probably receive, I want to say like 150 plus requests a day from journalists.
Really?
Yeah, they send it to these people, big journalists as well. I get journalists from Forbes, BBC, Business Insider, ones in America, loads.
How come? What makes them all of a sudden so interested?
Because it's for efficiency. They don't want to, because like I said, journalists are so busy. They don't want to reach out all the time. Some of them will, don't get me wrong. And some PR agencies have journalists that specifically ask them for stories. But this is for obviously more solopreneurs, freelancers, people who want to do it themselves. But they don't have the time to reach out all the time. So they send out these requests into these tools, and then anybody who signed up to it receives them. The way that you secure them is being reactive, have a strong pitch, and fast. So, for example, let me give an example of one yesterday. There was a money, I can't remember it. Yeah, there's also journal requests on Twitter, but they're not very often, and you have to search through loads of hashtags. But these ones give you they give you their email, they give you exactly what they want, and you just have to reply to it like that. Yeah, anyways, so yeah, sorry, I keep reading the comments.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I will make sure that the comments are read out. If you have any questions, everyone, please drop it in the Q&A. We'll answer them all at the end. I do have a question for you, and that's more of a geographical question. I am based in Helsinki, Finland. Somehow I have presence in the UK. Doesn't make sense for me to reach out to the British journalists, because I assume their media is probably the most suited for me because my primary language is English.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. It doesn't matter where you are. I've done press campaigns that have even secured placements in China before.
Oh.
Because it was relevant to them. It's just wherever is relevant for you.
Okay.
But as I was saying, so with the requests that you get from these platforms, they could ask anything. They could be asking for a comment from you. They could be asking to interview someone. They could be inviting you on a podcast. They could say that they want people to send a product to. It really does vary. And it's all industries. I'm pretty sure I saw a question is what industries is PR suited to? Everyone.
Yeah.
I have the requests that I get every day. It's such a broad range of industries, everything from fitness, tech, health, healthy lifestyle, STEM, all the way to marketing, PR, accountancy, everything. There's literally every industry that you get requests. And it's so easy because you do not need a press release for this. All you need, say if you, so like I was saying, I got a request for money saving tips in yesterday. I'm not a money person. But it just meant that if I had someone like Ola, I don't know if you know Ola from All Things Money.
Yeah.
So for example, she was receiving this, she would see it, reply instantly with her tips, and then she has a chance to be featured in it. So what you have to do is give your answer to whatever they want, and they never want something long. Should really just take you 5-10 minutes max to write it. Sometimes they will ask for a full article, but it is more regularly just a comment. And then what they will do is they receive all these pictures, make sure it's a strong pitch, make sure you obviously address them properly, make sure it's written well, make sure it has a personal touch and flair. Send it to them as soon as you can with an email response. And if they choose you, they get back to you. So, for example, one I got recently, it was they wanted tips about why, this wasn't for me, this was for a client. The request was, why is brand PR all of a sudden booming? Why is it all of a sudden why is everybody taking a big interest in it? And now this guy runs an SEO agency. So I replied to it really quick with 3 sentences about why brand PR is really important, and why it's even starting to take over marketing in certain areas. And then I gave 3 companies that do it really well, and it secured it. It's really not difficult to respond to these inbound PR requests. And what I do is I just set 5 to 10 minutes every couple of hours to check all the requests, quickly respond to them. Now, of course, you won't secure every single one because you are in a race against other people and other PRs who are doing this.
It's all about timing too.
Yeah, but if you have a flair, if you have a good response, there's absolutely no reason why you can't secure these. And again, it means no story. You only have to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day max responding to them. And I would say, I almost guarantee, as long as you write well and can convey yourself properly, you should secure it.
I love that. I love the idea of the whole inbound PR, because everyone running their communities, everyone who's a freelancer or a solopreneur are very, very busy people. Systems are something that needs to be optimized all the time, and if we can save time, then that will work really well. So just to summarize, the way you need to begin is to first create a press release. If you want to do
that side of it, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to do outbound, you create a press release, preferably create 3 versions of it with different angles. You send it out to the list of 200 to 500 journalists using one of the
Curate
tools.
the list first.
Curating the list first, make sure that it's aligned to the publication and the journalist with how you want to be and where you want to be PR'd. And then if you want to do inbound, then you need to also use different types of tools and just go daily through those pitches and respond to them. And most definitely, you're going to secure something.
Yeah, so Haro, HARO, completely free. You can sign up and receive all the publications for free. What I will say though, that it is slightly more US dominant, but it's completely fine. You can still secure it. You can get a week's free trial on Press Plugs. Press Plugs is my favorite. If you want PR, I 100% recommend it. And it is one of the cheaper ones. Like, for example, if you're using Response Source to get inbound requests, it's very pricey. So I don't necessarily recommend Response Source to get inbound unless you are an agency. But yeah, as someone who just services client myself, it's great. Every single day there's a relevant request. Even for myself, there is. So I definitely recommend that one. Again, as someone mentioned, there is Twitter. Yes, so you can use the hashtag PR requests or hashtag journo requests. So if you type one of them in Twitter, hashtag journo requests is a little bit more popular. You will just get all the requests that journos have every day. I just would say there's not as many, because like I said, with Press Plugs, I get, like I said, about 150 a day, if not more sometimes. But with Twitter, it's very rarely something you would be interested in.
Chris actually commented on that. He said, I find Twitter journal requests super diverse and worthwhile. I've been able to secure features for tons of experts and connections hadn't previously engaged with. The key is to be fast and focused. So I guess it's all about speed with PR, just because of the volume that goes around.
Inbound PR, 100% speed. If you're looking for a journalist that wants the particular comment or article, it is about speed, because at the end of the day, if they get 5 really strong pitches within an hour, they're naturally going to pick them than someone who replies 4 hours later.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So no, it's definitely about speed with inbound. What
do you think about this matchmaker .fm platform where you can contact podcast hosts? Matthias shared in a chat.
Hold on, let me look at where it said.
For those interested in achieving PR through podcasting.
Through podcasting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you want to, there's several platforms actually that you can achieve just podcasts. And it is definitely a good way. I've been on quite a few podcasts. I would just say make sure the podcast is the relevant. I've not used Matchmaker, but especially if they have a free version, absolutely. What I would say is perhaps make sure you are refining the tools you use. Don't have too many, because it can get quite overwhelming. Choose the ones that you feel give you the best requests and obviously match up to your purpose as well. And just have a few. Like at the moment, I am only using Harrow and Press Plugs. And then when I'm curating a journalist list, I will either tap into my own audience or my own network of people who I've already connected with, or use Rox Hill Media. They're the ones that I'm using right now. That's it.
All right. So those are 2 strategies, outbound and inbound. Is there anything more to it?
There are several different ways you can do PR. I mean, obviously, if you want to set up an event, obviously, if you want to host a whole PR campaign, but that's just very much when you have money to pump into it. Just these outbound that you can do yourself and inbound that can come to you and you just respond to, they are the 2 main ways that you will be able to secure it for yourself for very little money. So they're the main ones. I mean, if you did want to talk like a complex PR campaign where it has several different stages and many different channels, that is something that you probably should discuss. Well, not should, you would discuss it with a PR rep, PR agency. All
right. So till now, we discussed PR for you personally. Now, this is a series about community building. How would you go about using PR and brand partnerships for communities? Is it exactly the same? Are there more steps? Any different nuances?
So there isn't necessarily more steps. No, you can secure PR. A community at its best, you should really treat it like a company, right? At the end of the day, you're serving a purpose. You want to get the most out of that purpose and fulfill the most needs. Yes, communities obviously are a lot more, they're less like corporate based naturally, but securing PR is all the same. But what's really great about communities is obviously you can secure partnerships. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but I love tools.
Oh, yeah.
Naturally, with a good personal brand or a good presence, you will attract brand partnerships. And as Roman said, make sure that you're obviously only going for the ones that you would genuinely use yourself or could see yourself using or you believe would be beneficial. But there are so many communities, so many companies, so many people out there. PR partnerships might not always come knocking at your door. So there are some, again, great tools that you can do to get these partnerships with people that want to work with people. My favorite at the minute is a platform called Awin, AWIN, and one called Web Gains. Now, what essentially these are, they're affiliate partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, first of all, apply to be on this platform. They're all free for people trying to get partnerships, by the way. So you have to apply to get on it. And if you don't get accepted, I will just try another partnership platform. But Awin and Web Gains have been my favorite recently. Metapic's getting there, but it's not as good as the other two. Then there's thousands and thousands of businesses that want to make partnerships with people who run communities, people who run personal brands, people who run businesses. And then what you do with inside this, you then apply to each company to work with the partnership. So, for example, with my community, in a couple of months, I am releasing a program. And essentially, this program is going to have tons of discounts in. And a few of the companies, just to name a few, that I have secured partnerships with to be able to offer discounts to my community is Acer, the laptop brand. Don't know if anyone else heard of Acer.
Acer, yeah.
Yeah. The Works. Roman, I don't know if you've heard of the Works. Is it? No. It's like a notebook stationery shop, essentially,
Okay.
good for business owners, laptops direct, boots. So, big brands that are willing to work with people like us and work with communities because they know communities are the future. But it doesn't mean pitching and spending ages crafting this perfect pitch. It literally just means doing an application to get onto the platform, sending a few sentences to the company of why you think you'd be a good fit, because they're already willing to work with people like us. And then if they accept you, great. And then they sort out the discount for you, and you even get like a specific account manager for each of the partnerships that you work with. So they're really, really great platforms, and it's completely free for you to do.
All right. I feel like we're going to be sharing a lot of links in the follow-up email. I'm looking at Awin right now, and it looks massive.
Yeah. They have like massive brands on, the big brands. Awin's like the affiliate marketing partnership platform. That's the big dog.
And by affiliate marketing partnership here, you mean you just create a partnership with the brand per se, and you create the discount link for your members.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, I feel like whenever I centralize my community, the Flamingo Tribe, by the way, pick a platform. I don't know where you want to go. I feel like I will definitely use that. We have a few Q&A questions. In the meantime, I will want to ask everyone before we wrap up, which is still 20 minutes. If you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A. I am monitoring the chat, but just to make it easier for me and Saff, drop them in the Q&A. I have one question before we dive into the questions, and that is more related to your community, to the Twenties Legacy. I'm always curious how founders of communities have gone through their journey, how they started their communities, what challenges they've had, where they are now. But one thing that really gives a lot of learning is what would you change about your community? Maybe from a PR angle.
What would I change?
What will you do differently?
If I could go back and start again, I would just start with, I know everybody says to just jump into it and get started straight away. But when I launched the community, a few months later, I then went through a really crappy time personally for personal reasons. And it just meant that dealing with the huge workload did get difficult. So if I was to start all over again, I would probably do it with someone or I would probably make sure I had a huge backlog of different things that I wanted to have ready so that I could just fall back on that just in case. But no, to be honest, the people in my community are really amazing. They're incredibly supportive, and a lot of them love to be involved and engaged. So I wouldn't change anything about them. I would probably just make it a bit easier on myself. Maybe I've done it with someone.
I see. Well, are there any communities that do have co-founders? So far, I've been seeing sole founders only.
Yeah, definitely. And they do amazing, because the two people that you had run the past two sessions, they've done incredible. The previous one had a co-founder, doesn't she?
Pafavari has a co-founder, yeah.
Yeah, but no, and Sophie absolutely kills it. But I know she works a lot of hours, and I don't like working weekends, and I won't. So yeah, it would have been absolutely more beneficial, not just to me, but to the community as well, because they could have gotten so much more by now, probably, if I did have someone else. But I'm this far in, doing it on my own. It's fine. And yeah, all I just want is to help the most people in the most beneficial way. I just want to help people self-manage their self-employment and give them a fun, creative networking space to be a part of. So I don't think I would change much.
Well, you're definitely doing well with the new freelance directory, which I'm using now. Is going to be quite a thing for the members. Now, let's dive into the Q&A. The first question I have from Jody, and Jody is asking, what's your tips for starting PR for a small company you work for with no PR budget?
No PR budget inbound. Sign up to Harrow, it's free. So if you're not willing to pay for press plugs, which is absolutely fine, just sign up to Harrow. Use the hashtag journo requests on Twitter. And if you do have your own press release that you're willing to put out there, you can, as we spoke about before, you can easily curate your own journalist list without using tools. It just does take a little bit more time. Naturally, there's the first stage where you've got to give a lot of time, or you can start paying for tools, which just means obviously then you save a bit of time, but you can still do it on your own. So yeah, just start with the free versions, see where you get with it. Then as your budget increases, incorporate the tools so you save yourself some time. And then eventually, when it's going quite well for you and you're ready to pass it over on to someone else, you want to do the bigger PR campaigns or events, yeah, then you'll be able to forge an agency, hopefully.
I think in general, starting with inbound is the healthiest way.
Yeah.
You, for some reason, need the PR immediately.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just Harrow is, as I said, it's free.
Perfect. Hope that answered the question, Jody. Then another question from Sophie. Would you recommend having a content bank, quote bank, almost forward planning in a way? I guess that's for reaching out to people.
You could have pre-written press releases that if a journalist so happens to be wanting that type of story, yes. But the thing is, when you write press releases, they're meant to be meaningful and purposeful for a specific reason. So you couldn't exactly use your press release for any reason other than what you're putting it out for. But within inbound PR, definitely you can have templates. Anybody who I work with, I have templates about what they would say about certain topics that they want to be known for, what they want to talk about, what they want to be included in. And then what I would do is just insert a little bit of extra, magic to go to the journalist. But yeah, absolutely, you can have templates for the inbound PR. I have them for myself. I have them for clients. Just makes it a lot quicker. Sometimes you will get a request that you just have nothing for, but you just spend 5 to 10 minutes. Your pitch with inbound, unless it's an article pitch, it should not be taking you very long.
And those templates, is it something you create yourself and just make it into a template?
Okay. Yeah, make it yourself. Just like, for example, if you had if you were a business mentor or a business coach, and you typically talk about like well-being in the workplace or business growth or business strategy, you could easily have templates that essentially talk about those topics, and then you just mix them up or add a little bit according to what the exact request is. Because we have to remember, inbound PR requests are very specific. The journalist wants something specifically.
Okay. I feel like these kind of answers the question from Matthias as well. Matthias asked, how would you recommend business owners to best achieve free PR by promoting your business through social media channels and possibly land interviews? So using social, possibly land some podcast gigs or interview. I guess it's Haro again and inbound.
I think they're talking about how do they land PR with just social media, so without doing inbound and without doing their own press release. And if I'm honest, yeah, I've secured PR for myself just through my personal brand, but that is it, your personal brand. Like, for example, you need pretty healthy social media accounts, so you need to be consistently posting, engaging, growing, nurturing, and that's typically how people find you and reach out. I mean, Roman's also the personal brand expert, not me, but
yeah, that's
so
why I tell people just start building your personal brand.
yeah, so absolutely, you build your personal brand, you can secure PR through that, but you will get a lot more placements, because at the end of the day, the people that secure a lot of placements naturally, they're infamous, they're huge, they're the ones who get us first. Then the ones, small creators like us, we will get the odd opportunity, but you will get way more placements if you are doing inbound PR or sending out your own press release.
Love that. I feel like I need to start doing PR. I have one last question from Marie. Unless there are more questions, guys, please keep sending them. Marie is asking, when pitching to journalists, do we have to write our own article or just give them an about us?
When you pitch, it depends. When you pitch journalists and you have your press release, you need to, if you're pitching them personally and sending them a personal press release, what you should do is talk about some of the work you've seen previously about this journalist, then talk about why the story you have fits well and why it would be a good publication. Make sure it's not too long. Your pitch should be 6 sentences, 7 max. Make sure it's strong, quick, to the point, says the benefits and what it's going to do. And if you are sending a more generic pitch, you can miss out the part, obviously, about talking about the journalist's work, but just make sure it's to the point, who it serves, why it's going to serve well, the benefits of it. You don't want to really put about you, because in your press release, right at the bottom is where you put about who you are. And this should only be about 4 sentences. So, for example, with clients, if I'm talking about a company, I would just say XYZ company does this, they serve these people, they have been about for this long. If you've maybe won some awards, you can put that in there too, but the about me section should never be big. And don't put it at the top.
So definitely not sending an entire article, because there's going to be an editor creating it. And definitely not an about us type of text, because it's not just about you. You want to make it personalized and make sure that this is relevant and it's clear to the journalist.
Your press release is about your story. So the pitch should just be very brief, to the point. Your press release, again, 500 words, shouldn't be very long at all, so that pretty much a journalist can skim it, make sure it's great, and then choose it.
So an example of it from the top of my head could be, maybe I want to reach out to Bloomberg, who is interviewing Gen Z creators or Gen Z freelancers. And I tell them I've read a bunch of articles on this, and I think this is the trend, and this is where the movement is going in 2023. And this is what I've done. I've quit my 9 to 5. I'm 24, freelancer, personal branding, flamingos, all of that. Will that be considered a press release?
Yeah.
All
yeah,
right.
absolutely. So yeah, you talk about your journey from, like, essentially start to beginning, what you've done, what you've achieved, and what this means for other people your age, essentially. But yeah, and I will say Press Plugs has Bloomberg journalists on.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Are they exclusively on Press Plugs?
No.
Okay.
You will get the old response source one. No, they won't. It really varies, but that would also mean if they're looking to speak to someone like you and they send the request, it's so much easier. But yeah, Bloomberg, tons of journalists. Bloomberg not only have journalists that work for them, they have freelance journalists that they commission to write for them. So that's why tools, like I mentioned at the beginning, are really helpful, so you can find the exact journalists that talk about your area. But yeah, putting the pitch to the journalist, your story, a little bit about you at the bottom, done.
Yeah, Chris even said I need to get a personal brand manager or you, Saff, to do all this for me. Wouldn't that be lovely? Because I think at this point, PR is something I need to consider, especially for, well, I don't have a community centralized per se. So right now I am my own person and my following supporting me as a community. It's kind of a perfect situation.
Yes, you need PR. You absolutely need PR.
Geez, a Russian guy in Finland getting popular in the UK. That's a story.
But you know what? I actually was thinking your story alone would be an incredible story for people to read. It's inspiring. You're doing so well and you're defying what anybody's thinking about that whole situation.
You hear it, everyone. If there are any journalists there, please recommend. Siri, why are you getting into it? Anyways, I was gonna say something really, really smart, but I'm gonna read the Q&A question instead. From Marcus. So should a press release for inbound, for example, be written in reply email, an attached Word document, or PDF?
So rarely will you send your press release to an inbound request. They sometimes ask for press release. Say, for example, I know London Daily News, they often send us stories, send us press releases. We want to read them. So yeah, you would send your press release in a reply email. Press plugs, there's two options. Sometimes they put their email that you can respond to via email, and I'll send them a personal email. Sometimes you have to reply through the platform. Harrow always emails. You always email. I wouldn't send an attachment. The only attachments I ever send is if they ask for headshots. So if they say, make sure you include links and headshots, that's what I include. But with your press release, put it in the email because it's just a lot quicker for them. Think about how you can make it as quick as possible for them to read. And Sophie said, it's normally in notes to the editors section about me. Yeah, that's right.
So text only unless they specifically ask for links and any attachments.
Yeah.
Love it. What I was gonna say about PR and my story, I actually have been on two podcasts. So if anyone is interested, I don't think the link to it is anywhere on my profile anymore. I can link it in the email if you guys want to listen to it. Yeah, so thank you for the questions. Are there any more? Because in the meantime, I would like to know what would be my first step if I was to start right now. I don't have a community, as I said, but PR is definitely something I should do.
Well, first of all, you do have a community.
Well, like it's not like in a group.
You know, it definitely is.
Okay.
It 100% is. I would start with inbound.
Okay.
If I'm honest, it's just really low maintenance. The only thing that you have to do is make sure you're checking regularly throughout the day. Make sure you be able to nail a pitch to the journalists and quickly exactly what they want. And you can start off by doing it for free.
All right. So I just create an account there, just check it every day, practice with pitches. And also, I guess I need to figure out who I should accept and who I would want to send it out to, right?
They'll tell you exactly who they are, who they write for, and what they're writing about. So if you don't like the request, you just don't respond to it.
Oh, well, ghosting never felt easier.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's inbound PR's quick. This is why I say to people, like, you can absolutely get it as a freelancer or solopreneur easily in the beginning yourself. I mean, I'm not going to say all of you are going to absolutely guarantee placements because at the end of the day, you are still in competition. But if you practice, get confident with it and get good at it, of course you can do
it. About time to start, right? I don't have any more questions for you. The audience, please, if you have anything, thank you, Sophie. I think PR is, again, the topic that for some reason, I was not taught at the university. I was not taught at my job. I'm not being taught anywhere but your account. And now we have this wonderful webinar. Then I'm just going to rewatch it and start practicing because honestly, why so many people are slipping on this opportunity?
Yeah, Roman, you know, you can always reach out if you have any questions.
Perfect.
I'm fine. Anyone can ask me questions. Essentially, I just want to help people self-manage their self-employment. I'm not even trying to pitch myself or sell myself right now, but I'm telling you how to do it yourself. It's the bet for people who just getting started, like your social media account. I'm a firm believer that when you start social, when you start your business, you should learn the foundations and how to do it yourself, especially if money's a problem, like you can't pay for it. And
Mm.
at least you know how it works and the understanding of it. It's not just they're going to binge my content.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just learn how to do yourself. And also it's really exciting when a journalist replies to you, it feels so good. And seeing that article is great social proof.
Mm.
It's great for your social media. It's great to put on LinkedIn. If you see me on Business Insider, absolutely is going on LinkedIn or things like that.
I'm really curious, actually. I have a question regarding a lot of young entrepreneurs. I think one of the best examples could be Catalina Valentino, the one running Pivot. She seems to have a lot of PR. Do you think she was using all of these tactics?
I'm not sure. I think it's a mixture of she grew very quickly, so she got some people coming to her.
Mm.
But I do know that a few months ago she was looking for PR support.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's a mixture of both. Don't quote me on it because I've not had an in-depth conversation. All I know is that at one point she was looking for PR support.
Mm.
That's all I know. I think hers is a mixture of both, but she is huge. She has an audience of over 100,000 across all of her channels. So
Yeah,
hers is a mixture of both, I believe.
and she's invited to all kinds of conferences. I think, and also don't quote on me. I think I saw her story last week where she was accepting or reading an invitation somewhere in Dubai, and like Hillary Clinton is going to be there. Like, it's massive. So things that PR can do for you is probably place you next to some pretty influential people.
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
start.
exactly. Great example. She has utilized PR and uses PR, and look how huge she is. Look how well her businesses are doing. She's making a huge impact in the areas that she wants to. And a lot of it is because she got a lot of social proof from PR and a lot more exposure to these bigger names. Not all of us want to build an empire, but even exposure in the right places can be very beneficial.
Flamingo Empire sounds nice. Anyways, I don't have any more questions again. We're gonna start wrapping it up here. I shared all the relevant links for now. Saff's LinkedIn is there. Connection list I can share again if you guys want. And otherwise, I'm gonna share all the tools that were mentioned, any relevant links from Saff, links to her community, and the recording in the email tomorrow. Thank you so much, everyone, for
Thank you for all
attending.
coming and listening to me babble on.
I think it was very, very useful and very practical. I'll see you, everyone, next week on Thursday. I have Joe Glover coming in and talking about how to build an engaged community. Joe's voice is worthy of creating a separate ASMR channel on TikTok and just falling asleep to it. I swear to God, his voice is amazing. So thank you very much, everyone. Hope you have a nice rest of the day.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye. And I stopped the recording now.